Welcome to JJ the Wedding Planner Podcast, the podcast for all the lovebirds who are young or young at heart, the non-traditionalists who might like some traditions, los que hablan español e inglés, or maybe more like Spanglish, where the one rule is that we are exclusively inclusive. I'm JJ, and after almost 8 years in the wedding industry, serving couples of all backgrounds, I realized that there wasn't a central place where I can send them to hear from all the amazing POC professionals that I had met. So, aquí estamos para servirles. After each episode, you will walk away feeling empowered to take on the bits of planning that lead up to your big day, while keeping La Tia lovingly off your back. Bienvenidos! Welcome to episode 1 of JJ the Wedding Planner Podcast. This episode is going to be short and sweet today, and more than anything, you're going to hear about what to expect on this podcast, as well as a bit about my story. Who am I? What is my business all about? And why you should even be listening to this at all. So this whole podcast is all going to be short and sweet. I know that we live in a busy world where you're probably listening to this while you're making dinner or maybe on your drive to work. Whatever it is, whenever you're listening to this, I want this to all be short, bite-sized, 15, 20-minute episodes where you get really specific information that you can actually take action on. It's not things that you can start doing today while you get ready to plan your wedding, or maybe you're already in the middle of that, and this will just be helpful along the way. So like I said, short and sweet episodes. Every few weeks is going to have a specific theme. You'll hear different things like the pre-planning stage, the start of your planning stage, getting your budget together, how to pick out stationery. These are themes that sometimes are going to go more than one episode. Aside from those basic themes of the actual planning how-tos, we're also going to go dig a little deeper and talk about how to work through this time for you as a couple with your partner and also with family. We know that sometimes people get a little opinionated, even when the wedding isn't theirs. But I am going to help you, as long as with the professionals I'm going to bring on, we're going to help you work through these things and how to plan and have a good time and not be super stressed out, but get through this planning time and at the end have a beautiful wedding that you get to celebrate with your partner. Any business that gets promoted or interviewed or mentioned on the podcast is going to be from a very specific group of people. Again, I've been doing this for 8 years now, and I've gotten to meet a lot of POC professionals who, for some reason or another, we didn't really have another place where I was really getting information from them. I knew they were out there. I've worked with a lot of them. Many of them have been working in the wedding industry for decades, and yet there wasn't a place where their voices could be heard. So everyone who will be interviewed or on here is POC, Latinx, Femme, small business, LGBTQIA inclusive. And although I don't have any sponsors right now, soon I'm going to work on getting people that I align with, that our company aligns with, and they will also fall in those categories. This is very important to me. That's why I decided to create this platform. I realized that there are a lot of sources out there. You can go on Pinterest, or you can just do a Google search, and you can find so many different places and professionals and businesses and companies. And yet I never really found something like this where it's specifically for, bilingual speaking or people who deal with international weddings or bicultural weddings, anything like that. And so that's really important for me in this podcast. So now that you know what you can expect from the podcast, let me tell you a little bit about myself, my story, basically. So I was actually a trained stage manager. I did theater since I was in middle school, and I started doing stage management in high school. I went from that to doing it in college, as well as professional theater, community theater, and I was in that field, that whole theater field, for 10 years. That was a big chunk of my life, and I really always saw myself doing that work. I always said I'm a people person. I love the flexibility of the work. I love being able to work in different cities, and that was always a big thing for me. Then one day, my cousin actually asked me to be her coordinator. I was already her bridesmaid, and she knew that I was the kind of person that was good about being on time and making sure things ran smoothly, following timelines, all that good stuff. And so that's kind of where it all took off. I did this just to help her out. And then in the next few years, I had other friends reach out to me for the same thing. At this point, I was nowhere near thinking that it would become a business. I also never saw myself as a professional because I felt like all of my training was in theater. Weddings felt like a whole different field. And after years of being able to help them and just be a part of their big day, I realized that this is actually something I'm good at. It's so similar. Wedding coordination is so similar to the way that a stage manager puts together, a show every night. And it's almost the same thing. It's just different verbiage, different lingo. And so I decided to really go all in onto a business when my best friend had I'm just going to say a difficult experience with their wedding planner. And that was it for me. I knew that I didn't want people to be treated the way that she was treated. I wanted to make sure that those who, first of all, really invested into someone, because we all know everything in weddings costs money. And I wanted to know that when someone paid for something, specifically wedding planning, wedding coordination, that they were really taken care of. First of all, at bare minimum, they received everything they were promised, but also they were just cared about the entire time. That was a big deal for me. And so now this is year 4 of officially being an actual business after having really started 8 years ago. And I just keep feeling like this is where I need to be. Wedding planning and wedding coordination isn't just about, getting the pretty flowers and getting the space to all look cohesive. That's important, yes. But it's also for me about the way that I work with my clients, the way that I have calls with them every month or every other month, the way that it is when we meet together. It's important to me to have my couples trust in me and for me to understand what is important to them. That way I can help run the day a lot more smoothly. So like I said, I've been in this for years and I'm excited to see where my business continues to go from here. I'm also now in the process of helping train up my lead assistant into also leading weddings. As we continue to grow, there have been dates that have been double booked and I feel confident in giving her the space to grow as well. I'm one that I don't need to be the front runner. I don't need to be the person with, the face and the name in the front. I'm good with helping encourage other people to grow and learn and follow things that they're passionate about as well. So here I am, 8 years later. I decided to just jump in and start this podcast, and I'm excited to see where it goes. In episode 2, we're going to start to spice it up with something that I have named Social Questions Sessions. Okay, now try saying that 5 times fast. It's a tongue twister. But this segment is going to be the Q&A time. So you can DM or email us your questions for a chance to be featured live on air. Just kidding. Obviously, this is all pre-recorded, but you will get a shout out when you submit whatever question you have. It could be a big question like, how should I pick a theme for a wedding? Or a very specific question like, what flowers are in season at such and such time. You get the point. The idea is you get to submit a question, and on each episode, like I said, starting on episode 2, you will hear an answer to that. So go and find us on Instagram or send us an email and submit your question.